The colonization period, spanning from the 15th to the early 20th century, was marked by European powers expanding their territories across the globe. The political ideologies driving this era were deeply intertwined with the concepts of mercantilism, nationalism, and the civilizing mission. Mercantilism, which dominated European economic thought during this period, posited that a country's wealth was measured by its stockpile of precious metals, which could be increased through a favorable trade balance. Colonies were thus seen as crucial sources of raw materials and markets for manufactured goods, creating a symbiotic but often exploitative relationship between the colonizing and colonized nations. Nationalism also played a significant role in the colonization period. As European nations vied for power and prestige, possessing a vast colonial empire symbolized national strength and superiority. This competition fueled territorial expansion and often led to conflicts both in Europe and in the colonies. The idea that having a large empire was essential for a nation's global status drove many European powers to aggressively pursue colonial expansion. The civilizing mission, or the belief that Europeans had a duty to civilize the indigenous populations of their colonies, was another ideological underpinning of the colonization period. This paternalistic view justified the imposition of European culture, religion, and social norms on colonized peoples. It was often used to legitimize the harsh realities of colonial rule, including forced labor, land dispossession, and cultural assimilation. France, one of the major colonial powers, established a vast empire that spanned several continents. In Africa, French colonial rule extended over a significant portion of West and North Africa, including countries such as Algeria, Senegal, Mali, Ivory Coast, Guinea, and Burkina Faso. In North Africa, the French conquest of Algeria began in 1830 and was marked by a brutal military campaign and subsequent settler colonization. Algeria remained a French colony until it gained independence in 1962 after a prolonged and bloody war of independence. In Asia, France's colonial ambitions led to the establishment of French Indochina, which included present-day Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. French rule in Indochina began in the mid-19th century and lasted until the mid-20th century. The French implemented significant changes in the region, including the introduction of Western education, legal systems, and economic structures. However, colonial rule also led to widespread resistance and eventually the fight for independence, most notably led by the Viet Minh in Vietnam. In the Caribbean, France colonized several islands, including Guadeloupe, Martinique, and Saint-Domingue, now Haiti. The colony of Saint-Domingue was one of the wealthiest due to its extensive sugar plantations, which relied heavily on enslaved labor. The brutal conditions on these plantations led to the Haitian Revolution, resulting in Haiti's independence in 1804, the first successful slave revolt that led to the establishment of a free republic. In the Pacific, French Polynesia and New Caledonia were among France's colonial acquisitions. French Polynesia, consisting of over 100 islands, became a French protectorate in the 19th century and remains an overseas collectivity of France today. New Caledonia, known for its nickel resources, was annexed by France in 1853 and is currently a special collectivity of France with a significant degree of autonomy. France's colonial empire was not solely built on economic exploitation. It also involved cultural and educational policies. The French implemented a policy of assimilation, aiming to integrate colonial subjects into French culture and society. This policy was more pronounced in certain colonies, such as Algeria, where the French aimed to create a settler society, and in parts of West Africa, where French education systems were established to cultivate a class of educated elites who would support French interests. Despite these efforts, the reality of colonial rule often involved significant repression and violence. Anti-colonial movements emerged in many French colonies, leading to protracted struggles for independence. In Vietnam, the First Indochina War, 1946-1954, culminated in the Geneva Accords, which led to the withdrawal of French forces and the eventual division of Vietnam. In Algeria, the National Liberation Front, FLN, led a fierce war of independence against French rule, marked by atrocities on both sides, which eventually resulted in Algerian independence in 1962. The legacy of French colonization is complex and multifaceted. While it brought about significant changes in the colonies, including infrastructure development and the introduction of French legal and educational systems, it also left deep scars due to the economic exploitation, cultural imposition, and political repression experienced by the colonized peoples. The effects of French colonialism are still evident in many former colonies, influencing their political, social, and economic landscapes to this day. In summary, the political ideologies of mercantilism, nationalism, and the civilizing mission were fundamental in driving the European colonization period. France, as a key colonial power, established a vast empire across Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, and the Pacific. While French colonial rule brought about significant changes in these regions, it also led to widespread resistance and lasting impacts on the colonized societies. The legacy of French colonization continues to shape the histories and identities of these former colonies, reflecting the enduring influence of this turbulent period in global history.